Hi guys, back again with another video, and today I'm going to talk about modern gaming. There are good stuff about modern gaming and then there are just bad stuff about modern gaming. It is really polarizing if you ask different people. So for this video, I'm going to name 3 pros about modern gaming and then 3 cons about modern gaming. Now, modern gaming is mostly relative to your age, but for simplicity's sake and to keep this video organized, I'm counting everything after the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and the Wii as modern gaming. Mostly because that's when we started to see all the modern gaming stuff that we all know and hate today, or like. And remember, this is just my perspective. Your perspective might change a little bit depending on the topic, so please let me know yours in the comments down below. Alrighty, on to the video. The first pro on this list is remakes and remasters. Now this one can be a con depending who you are. I know some people who are sick and tired of remakes and remasters, but I consider it a pro. It's more of a benefit than a deterrent. Unless you're The Last of Us, that game was sorely not needed as a remake or remaster, but whatever. I do consider remakes and remasters of older games really beneficial to the gaming industry and the community alike, mostly because a lot of people might not get to play these games on older consoles. I personally did not grow up with a lot of these games. I mostly just stuck to my Nintendo games with the usual Mario stuff, and I really didn't branch out into all the great RPGs that were coming out at the time. So me being able to play these games in a remake style is so beneficial, and I'm not the only one. For example, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, a lot of people couldn't play it, but then when it came out for the Switch, I've seen a lot of people enjoy it for the first time, and that is very cool in my opinion. And if it wasn't for remakes or remasters, I would have been left out from Final Fantasy VII, Live a Live, Super Mario RPG, and many others that were doomed to be stuck on their older consoles without seeing the light of day. So all in all, remakes and remasters are a net positive to the gaming industry and for the gaming community. Now, there are cases where the remake or remaster is not done well, where the original is beneficial, but those cases are far and few in between. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, you could just emulate the games, but okay, me and emulation has some history. I don't mind emulation, especially for older games, if there's no remake or remaster for it, but I don't think emulation should really be a point of contention because I don't really like it as much as like the official game for an official console. But to be clear, I'm okay with emulation. Do what you want, but for me, that's not really an option. Plus bonus for a lot of these remakes and remasters, they tend to have amazing quality of life changes. Quality of life changes is so important. It's in the name, quality of life. It changes the game and makes it more palatable for people nowadays. As opposed to these other titles having what I call retro jank, quality of life changes are legit the best. Things like a fast forward button, objective markers, difficulty selection, and many more that make these older games just feel so much better. Controversial take. I feel like a lot of people have rose-tinted glasses for these retro games when in reality they're far from perfect, but a lot of people just don't see that and they just complain about remakes and remasters saying it's changing the vibe of the game. For example, Persona 3. I've seen a lot of people complain how it doesn't have the essence of the original, and I'm like, yeah, that's the point. It's a remake. It's supposed to be alike in a lot of different ways, and if you don't like that spin, then that's fine, but to say it's because it's new and modern or whatever is really dishonest. Alright, tangent aside, now for one of the cons in modern gaming, and that has to be the lack of originality and uniqueness. We've seen a lot of copy and paste type games, so much that I think there's a genre of games that play like older games. Like this game is like Earthbound, or this game is like Zelda, and how many Souls-like games have there been in recent years? And while those games are not bad, we've been seeing a lot of games just stick to this formula and lacking any uniqueness that makes it fun. And I understand to a certain extent, it takes a lot of money to make video games, and doing one that's different from the rest could backfire on the developers in a big way. But in saying that, I'm tired of seeing the same old, and I've noticed there's been a lack of originality from companies. A lot of games tend to copy mechanics or gameplay styles from each other, which isn't a bad thing. And if a developer innovates a well well-known gameplay mechanic, it should absolutely be applauded. A good example of this is Hi-Fi Rush. While it's a platforming kind of collectathon game, it has its own unique mechanics where it goes by the beat of the music while you're fighting the monsters. It took a well-known aspect, which is platforming, and turned it into something really cool. And for that, what did these good developers get in turn? A closed studio. They closed their studio recently, or Microsoft did. And this is not unique to Hi-Fi Rush. We've been seeing a lot of devs who created very unique games either close their studios, or work on something else that's a little bit samey, or just don't work in the gaming industry anymore. But the point I'm trying to make is that developers are kind of gun shy when it comes to making a brand new unique experience. And with how bloated these gaming budgets could be, especially in AAA gaming, you kind of understand why they wouldn't want to take that risk. But in the same vein, I kind of wish they would take that risk. Now, this is not for every game. There are unique games being developed by different companies like Capcom and Atlas with Metaphor Fantasio, but to say they are the majority is not true. They're actually the minority in this group. And that's not really helped with all these remakes and remasters, because while that's a pro for me, I can see the other side and why people are like, we want new IPs, we want new games, I am tired of the same old same old. And to be clear, I'm not talking about tropes or cliches, that's a different topic. I'm more so talking about the differences between games. A good example of this is the open world phenomenon. I kid you not, when one game did open world, the rest followed, and it was just a lot. Now, I like my linear experiences and my open worlds, but there was just so much open world everything. Sometimes I'm just very fatigued with it, and I'm just like, another open world, can we close this world? Especially if the world is empty, barren, ugly, and nothing too fun to be in, why have an open world? Anyways, there's a big lack of creativity when it comes to making games. And a lot of devs don't want to take the risk. And while I do understand, I feel like if they took the risk, most people, especially nowadays, will probably love it because it's something different and unique. I mean, if they're not shutting down studios, that is. And that's really sad to see. The only exception I've seen is Nintendo. They rarely shut down a studio, so that's pretty nice, but even they have to take some risk here and there to make their stuff more appealing and unique. Because we're talking about Nintendo. Their whole shtick is that they're not like all the other consoles. All of this to say, I just want to see more unique, creative games that push the industry forward and gives players something different to enjoy than the same old that we've been seeing for a long time now. And I would love to see more developers take the risk and create something new and fun. Now, the next pro on the list is graphics and performance. Now, I'm going to have to elaborate a bit when I say graphics. What I mean is that games are a lot more stylized than ever before, and I love that. So I'm not really here for realism graphics, I like stylized graphics. I like both, honestly, but stylized graphics is my preferred way, and I feel like in modern gaming, they're doing it so well, but these games are just beautiful. Also, anything made with the HD 2D graphics, I love. It looks beautiful to me, and I love to see more games use it. And honestly, it's nice to see companies make a big effort on how their games look and play. So they don't have to be realistic or anything like that. You don't have to zoom in and see a wrinkle in their eye for me to like it. I just want to see the graphics look pretty, and if the performance is good, that's a win-win. Now, what you think might look pretty and stuff is ultimately subjective, but I feel like a lot of people have the same mindset when they say, oh, graphics look pretty. They don't mean the realism, but the graphics themselves really capitalize what the game is about. Now, my tried and true example is the Persona series. The graphics in the game and the UI was treated so well and is so nice to look at that it hooked a lot of people, including me. But Persona 5 really revolutionized the style UI that a lot of JRPGs have nowadays. This is mainly because in modern day, we have modern day technology, and that really helps games do a lot of things that they really couldn't do in the past. Now, the one downside is the Nintendo Switch is notoriously underpowered. So the graphics from the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X are not going to look as good on the Switch, but there are some Switch first-party games that are just gorgeous. Tears of a Kingdom, Mario Wonder, Super Princess Peach Showtime, the list goes on. But hey, like the Switch 2 is gonna come out soon, so there's that. So in graphics and performance, modern gaming wins in this department. And honestly, I'm all here for it. Now the con. This is a big con and one that I feel a lot of people can relate to, and that is digital dystopia. A lot of digital stuff, and as a physical collector, I don't like that. Digital gaming has become more and more of a norm these days, and a lot of companies are pushing for digital for a lot of different reasons. I won't talk about it in here, but it's scary. Now, what I mean by digital dystopia is the fact that companies are finding less of a reason to produce more physical versions of their games. Some consoles don't even come with a disc drive. I find that really troubling. When I buy a game digitally, I don't feel like I own it. I feel like I'm just borrowing it. And I like collecting physical games, not just because they look cool on my shelf, but because I know if I pop it in when the game is dead or the console is dead, it would work. And I feel like I actually own the game. Now, there are some games that are like perpetually online. Most games, especially single player JRPGs, you don't really need to be online, so I just feel way better if I personally own it physically. And plus, they do look good on my shelf, not gonna lie. But nowadays, it has become really hard to get physical games. If you go into a game store like Best Buy or GameStop, all the shelves are like mostly empty. Gone are the days where you could just walk into a store and pick up a game. I know, it sucks. But all in all, artificial scarcity is actually a thing and is a blight on anyone who collects games physically. It all feeds to this digital dystopia that I feel that is coming, where you're not in control of what you buy. So I'm gonna stop ranting because honestly, this part is making me really sad. Next pro is the community. Now this one's really important to me because modern gaming is notorious for a lot of gatekeeping fanboys and arguing online, but a lot of people seem to skip the positive community aspects that we see now and love. And I feel like that's unfair, because while there are a lot of fanboy gatekeeping nonsense going on, console wars, I want to highlight the good of gaming communities. Now the saying always rings true: an active community is a healthy one. Gaming has come a long way and it's no longer a solitary experience. Communities are why games have been able to thrive for so long, especially indie games. A lot of games go for a word of mouth marketing than anything really serious. This is true especially with content creators. We love to stream games and cover them in hopes that other people pick it up down the line. Communities are formed where people like the same genre or games, and they can share around ideas, theories, art, and other things like that. This helps a lot of people get into the community and feel a little bit more seen. Now, off the top of my head, a good example of the community building a game is with Monster Hunter. There is a very strong community aspect to this game, and while you can play the game single player, it highly emphasizes that you play with a group of friends. I have a Discord, and sometimes I play Monster Hunter, so hit it up if you want to. And oh my god, I cannot wait until Wilds comes out. And this could be said about a lot of multiplayer games out there. It's easier than ever to interact with other people and play games with them, whereas retro games, you had to sometimes buy a doohickey with all these cords, and then you put the cords in there, and then you had to split it with friends, and they had to be in the same room as you. It was really convoluted, but nowadays, it's easier than ever to hop into a lobby, play a good game with somebody, and enjoy it, and also getting to know people in your community. Now obviously every fandom has their darker sides, but most are pretty chill. Now through the use of sharing, live streams, podcasts, videos, Twitter or X, or even Instagram, there are a dozen ways you can interact with people who love the same game as you and to get into the community. Now to the last con, and that is something I feel like everybody would agree with me 100%, and that is $70 gaming. It's ridiculous. Gaming has become one of the most expensive hobbies when compared to books, TV, movies. It is really expensive. I remember when 50 was full price for a game. That was around the Wii era. But ever since then, 60 has become the most common one. But then now they're changing it to 70. Now I will say, while it's hard to believe, there are actually people who are defending this take. A lot of people say $70 games are what they are. If you can't pay it, don't play it. Now I would agree that gaming as a hobby is a luxury, so it's not needed. But that doesn't mean the game should ramp up in price. But I guess I get the sentiment. If you know a game is good, then you should pay. A good case in point is Tears of the Kingdom. I had no problem paying it $70, but it still hurt, and I still rather not pay $70 for a game. Now, unless it's a game I'm looking forward to, I never buy a game full price unless I know the game is going to be good. And even then, sometimes I wait for a price drop. So even though Tears of the Kingdom was $70, a lot of Nintendo games are still $60. So that's good. And if there's games out there that are bold enough to charge $70, there better be something to back it up. And there are some companies that are really pushing the limits on what people are willing to pay for. Especially Sega, Atlas, they're notorious for that. I heard in Infinite Wealth that you have to pay for a freaking New Game Plus. I have never heard of that practice. This is the first time I've heard of it. And oh my god, it is as slimy as it sounds. So sadly enough, modern gaming has become more expensive than ever. Now, a silver lining is, hopefully that makes people wisen up to really be picky on what games they want to buy, especially day one, not to fall for FOMO, and really look around, especially from people in the community, is the game worth it? So there's a ton of different avenues for you to really look at a game before you buy it. And hopefully the prices go down sooner rather than later. Man, I should have ended this on a pro because I ended this on a con and now I'm very sad. But that is the end of the video. If you liked it, then please hit that like button. And if you enjoy my content and would love to see more, then consider subscribing if you're not yet subscribed. Tell me all your pros and cons about modern gaming in the comments down below. I would love to hear it. I read all my comments, so there's that. You can follow me on my socials in the description down below. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of the day, and as always, play a good game. Peace, peace.